Dr. Elena Vasquez wiped the sweat from her forehead as she stood in front of the massive stone wall. The air inside the ancient structure was thick and humid, making it hard to breathe. Her headlamp cut through the darkness, showing strange symbols carved deep into the rock. She had been exploring ruins on this planet for 3 weeks now, but nothing had prepared her for what she was seeing. The planet was called Kepler 442c by the scientists. Back on Earth, it was supposed to be empty. Just another dead world in the endless black of space. But the scanners had found something. Structures, old ones. Really old ones. So old that they made the pyramids back on Earth look like they were built yesterday. Elena reached out and touched one of the symbols. The stone was smooth, worn down by millions of years, but the symbols were still clear, still readable. That was the problem. They looked familiar. Too familiar. She pulled out her scanner and started taking pictures. Each symbol made her heart beat faster. These were not alien symbols. These were human symbols. But that was impossible. Humans had only been in space for about 200 years. This planet was thousands of light years from Earth. The symbols on this wall were millions of years old. Her communicator buzzed. It was Commander James Chun calling from the research ship above. "Elena, how are things down there?" His voice crackled through the static. "James, you need to see this," she said, her voice shaking. "I'm sending you the pictures now." She uploaded the images to her scanner and sent them to the ship. While she waited for James to respond, she kept looking at the symbols. They reminded her of ancient writing from Earth, like the symbols found in caves where early humans lived. But these were much more complex, much more advanced. "Elena, these symbols..." James's voice came through the communicator again. "Are you sure your scanner is working right?" "I've checked it 3 times, Elena said. "James, I think these symbols are some kind of language, an old human language." "That's impossible. Humans have never been to this planet before us." Elena moved deeper into the structure. Her light showed more walls covered in symbols. Room after room filled with the strange writing. In the center of the largest room, she found something that made her stop breathing. It was a stone table, flat and smooth, covered in symbols that seemed to tell a story. Elena set up her equipment and started translating. She had studied ancient languages all her life. Sanskrit, Latin, Old Egyptian. But these symbols were older than anything she had ever seen. The translation came slowly, word by word, symbol by symbol. As the meaning became clear, Elena felt cold. Fear run down her spine. "The children have forgotten their origin," she read out loud. "They were made to forget." Her hands shook as she continued translating. "The Watchers came from above. They changed our minds. They changed our bodies. They made us small. They made us weak. They sent us far away." Elena's communicator buzzed again. This time it was not James. It was Captain Morrison from the ship. "Dr. Vasquez, you need to return to the ship immediately," Morrison's voice was sharp and serious. "Captain, I found something important here. I need more time." "Doctor, that's an order. We've received new instructions from Earth. Your research is being classified. You have 1 hour to collect your equipment and return." Elena stared at the symbols on the stone table. How could Earth know what she had found? She had only just discovered it herself. Unless they already knew, unless they had been waiting for someone to find it, she quickly took more pictures. As many as she could? She copied the symbols into her personal data pad, the one that was not connected to the ship's computer. If someone was trying to hide this, she was not going to let them dot as she worked. She found more text. Deeper in the structure, hidden behind loose stones. The words were smaller here, harder to read, but the message was the same. "We were the rulers of the stars," one section said. "We built worlds. We made life. We were gods among the darkness. But we trusted the wrong ones. They turned our children against us. They made them forget. They scattered them like seeds in the wind." Elena photographed everything, every symbol, every word. Her data pad was filling up with impossible information. Information that said humans had been in space millions of years ago, that they had built an empire among the stars. That something had happened to make them forget. Another message caught her eye. This one was different, fresher somehow, like it had been carved much later than the others. For those who remember, it said, for those who seek the truth, look for the 17 worlds. Find the markers, wake the sleeping ones. The time of forgetting is almost over. 17 worlds. Elena's mind raced. Were there other planets like this? Other ruins with the same messages? She thought about all the dead worlds humans had found in their expansion into space. All the planets that seemed like they should have life but didn't. What if they weren't dead? What if they were sleeping? Her communicator buzzed again, James this time. Elena, we have a problem. 3 ships just came out of hyperspace. They're not human ships. They're heading straight for us. Elena looked around the ancient room one more time. The symbols seemed to glow in her headlamp's light, like they were trying to tell her something. Like they were warning her. She grabbed her equipment and ran for the surface. As she climbed out of the ruins, she could see lights in the sky. 3 alien ships moving toward their research vessel. They were sleek and silver, unlike any ships she had seen before. The ground transport was waiting for her. She jumped in and raced back to the landing site where her shuttle waited. As she flew up to the research ship, she could see the alien vessels more clearly. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time. Ancient-looking but obviously advanced. Elena docked with the research ship and ran to the bridge. James and Captain Morrison were staring at the main screen. The alien ships had stopped just outside weapon range. Have they said anything? Elena asked. Nothing, Morrison replied. They're just sitting there, watching us. Elena looked at the ships on the screen. Something about them seemed familiar, like she had seen them before in a dream. She thought about the symbols in the ruins, the words about watchers from above. Captain, she said slowly, I think they've been waiting for us to find those ruins. Morrison turned to look at her. What do you mean? I think someone doesn't want us to know what's down there. And I think those ships belong to the ones who made us forget. The alien ships moved closer. Elena gripped her datapad tighter. Whatever was on those 17 worlds, whatever truth was hidden in those ancient symbols, she was going to find it, even if it killed her. The alien ships hung in space like silent predators. Elena watched them from the bridge of the research vessel, her datapad hidden inside her jacket. Captain Morrison was trying to establish contact, but the aliens were not responding to any signals. Still nothing, Captain, reported Lieutenant Davis from the communications station. They're just sitting there. Elena studied the ships on the main screen. They were unlike anything in the human fleet. The hulls seemed to glow with their own light, and strange patterns moved across their surfaces like living circuits. She had never seen anything like them in any of the alien species databases. Elena, James whispered, moving closer to her. What exactly did you find down there? She glanced around the bridge. Everyone was focused on the alien ships. She pulled out her personal datapad and showed James some of the pictures she had taken. His eyes went wide as he saw the symbols. These look like ancient human writing, he said quietly. That's what I thought too. But James, some of these symbols are millions of years old. That means humans were here long before we ever left Earth. Before James could respond, the main screen flickered. A new image appeared. It was an alien face, but not like any they had seen before. The being had pale blue skin and large black eyes that seemed to look right through them. When it spoke, its voice was like music, but cold music. Music without feeling. Greetings, humans of Earth, the alien said. I am Keeper Zan of the Ethereal Collective. You have discovered something that was not meant to be found. Captain Morrison stepped forward. This is Captain Morrison of the Earth research vessel Prometheus. We are on a peaceful scientific mission. We know who you are, Captain Morrison. We know why you are here. We have been watching your species for a very long time. The alien's black eyes seemed to focus on Elena. Dr. Vasquez, you will surrender all data you collected from the surface. Immediately, Elena felt ice in her stomach. How did they know her name? How did they know what she had found? I don't know what you're talking about, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. The alien's face showed no expression. Do not attempt deception, Doctor. We monitored your communications with your ship. We know you found the marker stones. We know you translated the Forbidden's texts. Forbidden by who? Elena asked, anger replacing her fear. Who gave you the right to decide what humans can and cannot learn? We gave ourselves that right when your ancestors proved they could not be trusted with the truth. Morrison stepped between Elena and the screen. What truth? What are you talking about? Captain, your species has a history that extends far beyond what you have been taught. A history that was deliberately erased for the safety of all intelligent life in this galaxy. Elena pushed past Morrison. You're talking about the symbols I found. The ones that say humans ruled the stars millions of years ago. Symbols can lie, Doctor. History can be distorted. What you found were the ravings of a dying civilization, nothing more. But Elena could hear something in the alien's voice. A slight change in tone when it said the words, it was lying. She was sure of it. If the symbols are just lies, she said, then why are you so worried about them? Why do you need to classify my research? The alien's eyes seemed to grow even darker. Because lies can be dangerous, Doctor. Especially lies that make a species believe they are more than they actually are. Suddenly, alarms started blaring throughout the ship. Lieutenant Davis looked up from his station, his face pale. Captain, we have incoming ships, lots of them. The main screen switched to show space around them. Dozens of smaller ships were dropping out of hyperspace. They were different from the 3 larger vessels. These ships were darker, more aggressive looking. They had weapons that were already charging. Zephyrian attack craft, Keeper Zan said calmly. They will board your vessel and retrieve the data you collected. Do not resist and you will not be harmed. Like hell, Morrison said. He turned to his crew. All hands to battle stations. Prepare for boarding action. Elena grabbed James's arm. We need to hide the data. If they're this desperate to get it, it must be important. James nodded. The maintenance tunnels. They won't think to look there right away. Elena quickly copied all her data onto a backup drive. She handed it to James. Take this and hide it. I'll keep the original datapad as a decoy. James ran for the maintenance hatches as the first Zephyrian ships attached to their hull. Elena could hear cutting tools working on the outer doors. The aliens were coming aboard. All crew members will remain calm. Keeper Zan's voice came over the ship's speakers. The Zephyrians are here to collect specific data. They will not harm you if you cooperate. Elena looked around the bridge. Morrison was checking his sidearm. The other crew members were grabbing whatever weapons they could find. She had never been in a fight before, but something strange was happening to her. She felt calm, more than calm. She felt ready. The sounds of cutting stopped. There was a moment of silence. Then the doors exploded inward. The Zephyrians were tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. They moved fast, faster than Elena thought possible. They carried energy weapons that hummed with power. But as they entered the bridge, something unexpected happened. James appeared behind them. Elena watched in amazement as her research partner moved like a different person. He had found a piece of metal pipe somewhere, and he was using it like a weapon, but not just swinging it wildly. He moved with precision and skill that she had never seen before. The first Zephyrian turned to fire at him, but James was already moving. He ducked under the alien's arm and struck it in what looked like a nerve center. The Zephyrian dropped instantly. The second alien tried to aim at James, but he threw the pipe with perfect accuracy. It hit the Zephyrian in the center of its chest, sending it flying backward into the wall. 2 more Zephyrians entered the bridge. James picked up one of their dropped weapons and fired without even looking at the controls. The energy blast hit exactly where he aimed it. Elena stared at him. James was a scientist, a researcher. She had known him for 5 years. He had never shown any combat training. He had never even mentioned being in the military. But he was fighting. Like he had been born to it. The last Zephyrian on the bridge raised its weapon toward Elena. Without thinking, she dove to the side and rolled behind a control console. The movement felt natural, familiar, like she had done it 1,000 times. Before the energy blast missed her by inches. She could smell the burned air where it passed. But she was not afraid. She was angry. These aliens had come onto her ship. They were trying to steal her discovery. They were trying to hide the truth about her own species. Elena spotted a loose piece of equipment on the floor. A heavy scanner unit. She picked it up and threw it at the Zephyrian. Her aim was perfect. The scanner hit the alien in the head and it fell to the ground unconscious. The bridge was quiet again. Elena and James looked at each other across the room. Both of them were breathing hard, but neither seemed hurt. "James," Elena said slowly, "how did you know how to fight like that?" He looked down at the Zephyrian weapon in his hands. "I don't know. It just felt natural, like I had always known how to do it." Morrison was staring at both of them. "I've seen a lot of combat in my career, but I've never seen anything like what you two just did. You move like professional soldiers." From the main screen, Keeper Zan's voice spoke again, but this time there was something different in its tone, something that might have been fear. "Impossible," the alien whispered. "They fight like the ancients." "But the ancients were destroyed? They were all destroyed?" Elena looked at the screen. "What ancients? What are you talking about?" But the connection was already being cut. The 3 large alien ships were moving away from them. In the distance, she could see the remaining Zephyrian vessels retreating. As well, Elena walked over to one of the unconscious aliens. As she looked down at it, the Zephyrian's eyes opened. It looked up at her with what appeared to be amazement. "You fight like them," it whispered in broken English. "Like the ones who came before? But that cannot be. They are gone." The ethereals made sure they were gone. "Who?" Elena demanded. "Who are you talking about?" But the alien's eyes closed again, and it said nothing more. Elena looked at James. Both of them had just fought off trained alien soldiers using skills they did not know they had. Both of them had moved and acted like experienced warriors, and somewhere in the back of her mind, Elena was starting to remember things. Dreams she had been having since she was a child. Dreams of flying between the stars, dreams of building worlds. Dreams of ruling an empire that stretched across the galaxy. Dreams that might not have been dreams at all. Elena could not stop thinking about what the dying Zephyrian had said. "You fight like them, like the ones who came before." The words kept repeating in her mind as the research ship traveled through hyperspace toward their next destination. James had found coordinates hidden in the ancient symbols. Not just one location, but 17 different star systems. All of them far from Earth, all of them in areas of space that humans had never explored before. The closest one was 3 days away. "I keep having the same dream," James said as he sat next to Elena in the ship's small cafeteria. "I'm standing on a world covered in crystal towers. There are ships in the sky, but they're not like our ships. They're alive somehow, and I know how to control them." Elena nodded. "I've been having dreams too. Different ones, but similar. I dream about building worlds. Actually building them from nothing but rock and ice. And in the dreams, it feels easy. Like breathing." Captain Morrison walked over to their table. His face looked tired and worried. "Dr. Vasquez, I've been trying to contact Earth about what happened with those aliens. But every time I send a message, I get the same response. Mission classified. No further communication authorized." "They're covering it up," Elena said. "Just like the ethereals said they would. But why? If humans really did have some kind of ancient civilization, why would our own government want to hide it from us?" Before Elena could answer, Lieutenant Davis's voice came over the ship's speakers. "Captain Morrison to the bridge, please. We're getting some strange readings." They all hurried to the bridge. On the main screen was a star system with 7 planets. But something was wrong with the star. It was too bright, too blue, and around it was a ring of structures that looked artificial. "That's impossible," Morrison said. "Stars don't have rings like that, not natural ones." Elena stared at the screen. The ring around the star looked familiar. She had seen it before. In her dreams. James, do you recognize that? He was already nodding. It's a solar collector. But not just any solar collector. It's designed to feed energy to an entire star system, maybe multiple star systems. How could you possibly know that? Morrison asked. James paused. I don't know, I just do. As they got closer to the system, more details became visible. The planets were not natural either. They were too perfect, too round, too evenly spaced. And on the surface of each world, Elena could see the ruins of massive cities. There, she pointed to the third planet. That's where we need to go. How do you know? Morrison asked. Because I can feel it calling to me. The planet's surface was covered in structures that made the ruins on Kepler 442c look small. Entire continents were shaped like geometric patterns. Mountain ranges that formed perfect spirals. Oceans that were exact circles. This was not a natural world. This was a world that had been built. As their shuttle descended through the atmosphere, Elena felt something change inside her mind. It was like a door opening. Memories that were not her memories began to flow into her consciousness. She saw this world as it used to be, alive, full of people who looked human but were somehow more than human. They landed near what looked like a temple complex. But as Elena stepped out of the shuttle, she realized it was not a temple, it was a library. A vast library that contained the history of an entire civilization. Elena, look at this! James called from near the entrance to the main building. Above. The doorway was carved a symbol, a circle with lines radiating from it like a star, but Elena knew it was not just any star. It was Earth's sun, and around it were smaller circles representing the planets of the solar system. They knew about Earth, she whispered. Our Earth, they knew about our solar system millions of years ago. Inside the library, the walls were covered with crystal screens. As Elena approached one of them, it suddenly lit up. Images began flowing across its surface, images of humans, but not modern humans. These humans were taller, stronger, more beautiful than any she had ever seen. The crystal screen seemed to respond to her presence. As she watched, the images changed to show her scenes from the past. Humans building worlds. Humans creating life. Humans traveling between stars without ships. Somehow moving through space with their minds alone. Elena, you need to see this. James called from another room. She found him standing in front of a massive crystal formation that rose from the floor to the ceiling. Inside the crystal was a figure, a human figure. But this human was still alive, somehow preserved in the crystal for millions of years. As Elena approached, the figure's eyes opened. They were bright blue, like stars. When the figure spoke, its voice seemed to come from inside Elena's own mind. You have returned, the figure said. I have waited so long for you to remember. Who are you? Elena asked. I am Archon Vex. I was one of the last to remain in physical form when our people chose to transcend. I stayed behind to watch over the scattered children, to wait for the day when they would return to reclaim their heritage. Our people? You mean humans? Humans, yes, but not the humans you know now. You are the descendants of the progenitors. We ruled this galaxy for millions of years. We built worlds, created life, guided the evolution of countless species. We were gods among the stars. Elena felt her heart racing. What happened to us? Why don't we remember? The crystal around Archon Vex began to glow brighter. We made a mistake. We trusted those we had lifted up. The ethereals were one of our youngest creations. We gave them intelligence. We gave them technology. We thought they would be grateful, but they weren't. No, they feared us. As we grew more powerful, as we learned to transcend physical existence, they became afraid that we would abandon them. So they convinced the other species we had created to join them in rebellion. The images on the crystal walls changed. Elena saw a great war. Fleets of ships fighting across the galaxy, worlds burning, stars going dark. We could have destroyed them all, Vex continued. But we were not a violent people. We had evolved beyond the need for war. So when they offered us a choice, we took it. What choice? Exile, they would allow our physical forms to survive if we agreed to have our memories erased and our children scattered across distant worlds. We would forget who we were, we would become primitive again, and they would watch over us to make sure we never remembered. Elena looked at James. He was staring at the crystal screens with tears in his eyes. The dreams, he said. They're not dreams at all, they're memories. Yes, Vex said. Genetic memories, passed down from parent to child for millions of years. The ethereals thought they could erase our knowledge, but they could not erase what was written in our very DNA. But something has changed, Elena said. We're starting to remember. We're developing abilities we never had before. Because the time of forgetting is ending? Your people have spread far enough across the galaxy. You have grown strong enough. The genetic locks that the ethereals placed on your minds are breaking down. Suddenly, alarms began blaring from their shuttle outside. Morrison's voice came through their communicators. Elena, James, we have a problem. Ships are coming out of hyperspace. Lots of them, and they're not human, Elena looked at Vex. The ethereals? Yes, they have been monitoring your species for signs of awakening. Your discovery of the ruins, your display of ancient combat skills, your arrival at this world. They know what is happening. What do we do? Vex's form began to fade as the crystal around him cracked. You must reach the other 16 worlds. You must wake the sleepers. And you must remember what you truly are before they stop you. Wait, Elena called out. How do we fight them? How do we stop them? But Vex was already disappearing. His voice came as a whisper. You already know how, child of stars, you have always known. You just need to remember. The crystal shattered and Vex was gone. But as the pieces fell around Elena, she felt something change inside her mind, like a dam breaking. Memories flooded through her consciousness. Not her memories, but the memories of her ancestors. The memories of the progenitors. She saw herself as she truly was. Not a simple human scientist, but the descendant of beings who had shaped galaxies. Who had built worlds with their thoughts. Who had created life itself. Elena looked at James and saw the same awakening in his eyes. They were not just humans anymore. They were something more. Something the galaxy had feared enough to hide for millions of years, outside the alien ships. Were getting closer, but Elena was no longer afraid. She knew who she was now. She knew what she was capable of. The ethereals had made a mistake in allowing the progenitors to survive. They had thought that exile and memory loss would be enough. To stop them forever, they were wrong. The children of the stars were finally coming home. Elena felt the changes happening inside her mind. It was like waking up from a long, deep sleep. Memories that belonged to her ancestors were becoming her memories. Knowledge that had been locked away for millions of years was flowing back into her consciousness. She looked at her hands and saw them differently now. These were not just human hands. These were the hands of a progenitor, hands that had once shaped worlds and created life. She could feel power flowing through her body, power that had been sleeping in her DNA since birth. James was experiencing the same awakening. His eyes had changed color, becoming brighter, more intense. When he looked at the broken crystal where Vex had been, Elena could see that he understood things now that he had never understood before. We need to get back to the ship, Elena said. But her voice sounded different, stronger, more confident. As they ran back to their shuttle, Elena could feel the alien ships getting closer, but she was not afraid. Fear was something that belonged to the old Elena, the Elena who thought she was just a human scientist. This new Elena knew what she really was. Morrison was waiting for them at the shuttle. We need to leave now, he said. There are 12 ethereal ships heading this way. And they're charging weapons. No, Elena said calmly. We're not running anymore. Morrison stared at her. Elena, what's gotten into you? Those ships can destroy us. Captain, James said, and his voice had the same new strength as Elena's. Trust us, we know what we're doing now. As their shuttle lifted off from the planet's surface, Elena closed her eyes and reached out with her mind. She could feel the ancient technology that was buried beneath the planet's surface. Technology that had been waiting for millions of years for someone with progenitor blood to wake it up. The planet began to glow, not from its star, but from its own internal power. Ancient defense systems that had been sleeping since the Great War started coming online. Elena could feel them responding to her presence, recognizing her genetic signature. "Elena," Morrison said, staring at the planet below them. "What's happening down there?" "The planet is remembering what it was built for," she said. On the main screen of their shuttle, they could see the ethereal ships approaching. 12 massive vessels, each one capable of destroying a small moon. But as they got closer to the planet, something happened that none of them expected. The ships stopped moving. Their engines went dark. Their weapons powered down. "This is impossible," Morrison whispered. Elena opened her eyes and looked at the screen. She was not surprised. The planet's defense grid is still active. It's designed to shut down any technology that wasn't built by progenitors. One of the ethereal ships managed to get a communication through before its systems failed completely. Keeper Zan appeared on their screen, but he looked different now, older, more worried. "Dr. Vasquez," Zan said, "you do not understand what you are doing. Your people's awakening will bring destruction to the entire galaxy." "The only destruction I see is what your people have been doing to us for millions of years," Elena replied. "We saved the galaxy from your ancestors. The progenitors were becoming too powerful. They were losing touch with physical reality. If they had continued on their path, they would have destroyed everything. That's not what Archon Vex told us." Zan's expression changed. "Vex is alive? That is not possible. We destroyed all the archive worlds." "You missed one," James said, "and now we know the truth." Elena could feel something else awakening. Not just on this planet, but on other worlds throughout the galaxy. The genetic awakening was spreading. Every human in space was starting to remember what they really were. Through her new awareness, Elena could sense human colonies on dozens of worlds. She could feel their confusion as ancient memories began flooding back. She could feel their fear turning to anger as they realized how long they had been lied to, but she could also feel their power growing. Abilities that had been locked away in their DNA were starting to emerge. Some humans were discovering they could interface directly with technology. Others were finding they could sense things across vast distances. A few were even beginning to manipulate matter with their thoughts. The awakening cannot be stopped. Elena told Zan, "It's happening on every world where humans live. Your genetic locks are breaking down." "Then we will do what we did before," Zan said. "We will gather the other species. We will stop you before you become too dangerous." "Good luck with that," James said. He was looking at something on his scanner. "Elena, look at this." Elena looked at the readings James was showing her. Ships were moving throughout human space, but they were not alien ships. They were human ships, and they were all moving in the same direction, toward Earth. "They're going home," Elena realized. "Every human in the galaxy is heading back to Earth." Morrison was staring at the scanner readings. "That's impossible. There are thousands of human ships out there. Cargo vessels, exploration ships, colony transports. They can't all be coordinating like this." "They don't need to coordinate," Elena said. "They're all connected now. Through the genetic memory network, they all know what they need to do." Zan's face on the screen had gone pale. "The convergence. It was in the old records. We thought it was just mythology." "What convergence?" Elena demanded. "When the progenitors scattered, they built a failsafe into their genetic code. If they ever faced extinction, if they were ever pushed too far, all their descendants would be called back to their origin world. They would converge and reclaim their power." Elena felt a pull in her mind. A calling that was impossible to ignore. Earth. She needed to get to Earth. They all did. Every human in the galaxy was feeling the same pull. "Set course for Earth," she told Morrison. "Elena, we can't just abandon our mission." "Our mission is complete, Captain. We found the truth. Now we need to go home and share it with the rest of our people." As their ship entered hyperspace, Elena could feel the convergence beginning. Human ships from across the galaxy were all heading toward the same destination. The awakening was spreading faster now. Every jump through hyperspace seemed to strengthen the connection between all humans. She could sense other things too. Ancient facilities on Earth that were starting to come online. Technology that had been buried for millions of years was beginning to activate. The planet itself was preparing for the return of its true children, but the ethereals were not sitting idle. Through her expanding awareness, Elena could sense them mobilizing their allies. Every species that they had convinced to rebel against the progenitors was being called to war once again. "They're gathering a fleet," she told James. "Every alien species that fought against our ancestors. They're all heading for Earth, too." "How many?" James asked. Elena closed her eyes and reached out with her mind. The numbers she sensed made her gasp. Thousands of ships. Maybe tens of thousands. They're bringing everything they have. Morrison looked worried. "Elena, Earth's defenses aren't designed to handle that kind of attack. We need to warn them." "Earth doesn't need warning," Elena said with growing confidence. "Earth has been waiting for us to come home. And when we get there, we're going to remember everything our ancestors were capable of." She could feel it now. The planet that had been humanity's prison for millions of years was actually something much more important. It was their backup, their resurrection point. A world designed to restore the progenitors to full power if they ever faced total destruction. The ethereals thought they had been clever by scattering humans to primitive worlds. But they had actually activated the greatest failsafe in galactic history. "How long until we reach Earth?" Elena asked. 18 hours, Morrison replied. Elena nodded. 18 hours until the convergence was complete. 18 hours until humanity reclaimed its rightful place as the rulers of the galaxy, but first, they would have to survive the greatest battle in galactic history. Every species in the galaxy would be at Earth when they arrived. Some would be there to welcome humanity home, but most would be there to make sure the progenitors never rose again. Elena was not worried. She could feel the power growing inside her with every passing hour. And she could sense that same power awakening in every human across the galaxy. The children of the stars were going home. And this time, nothing would stop them from reclaiming their inheritance. The sight that greeted Elena as their ship dropped out of hyperspace near Earth took her breath away. The space around humanity's homeworld was filled with ships. Thousands upon thousands of vessels from every corner of the galaxy, human ships, were arriving from all directions. Colony vessels, research ships, cargo haulers, even tiny personal craft. All of them answering the call that echoed in every human's DNA. But they were not alone. Alien fleets surrounded Earth like a massive trap, ethereal ships with their glowing hulls, Zephyrian attack craft bristling with weapons. Species Elena had never seen before, all united in their fear of what humanity was becoming. "My God," Captain Morrison whispered as he stared at the main screen. "There must be 50,000 ships out there." Elena could feel every human mind in the approaching flee. Millions of people all experiencing the same awakening she had gone through, all remembering what they truly were, all ready to reclaim their birthright, but she could also feel something else, something that made her smile. "Elena," James said, looking at his instruments, "I'm getting some strange readings from Earth itself." She looked at the scanner data and felt her heart race with excitement. The planet is waking up. On the surface of Earth, ancient structures were rising from beneath the ground. Cities that had been buried for millions of years were breaking through mountains and ocean floors. Technology that predated human civilization was coming online. The moon was changing too. What had looked like natural craters were revealing themselves to be massive installations. Weapon platforms and shield generators that had been dormant since the progenitor exile were powering up. "This is Keeper Zan to all human vessels," came a transmission across all frequencies. "You will halt your approach immediately. Earth is under galactic quarantine. Any vessel that comes closer will be destroyed." Elena felt anger surge through her. Not just her own anger, but the rage of millions of awakening humans. They had been lied to for millions of years, kept weak and ignorant while their true heritage was hidden from them. "This is Dr. Elena Vasquez to all human ships," she broadcast back. "We are going home. Anyone who tries to stop us will face the consequences." The alien fleets began moving into attack formation, but something unexpected happened. As the human ships got closer to Earth, they began to change. Hull plating that had looked ordinary revealed itself to be advanced armor. Engines that seemed primitive suddenly became more powerful than anything in the alien fleets. Weapon systems that did not exist moments before began emerging from hidden compartments. The ships are remembering too, Elena realized. Human technology isn't primitive, it's been sleeping? James was staring at his control panel as it transformed before his eyes. New displays appeared, new controls that he somehow knew how to operate despite never having seen them before. Their simple research vessel was becoming something much more dangerous. "Elena, I'm picking up a transmission from Earth," Morrison said. "It's coming from somewhere in Antarctica." The voice that came through their speakers was old and wise, but it was definitely human. "Children of Earth," the voice said. "This is Archon Prime, speaking from the primary archive beneath your southern continent. The time of exile is over. The time of remembering has begun. All vessels will proceed to designated coordinates for final awakening protocols." Elena felt tears in her eyes. There were other progenitors still alive on Earth, hidden away, waiting for this moment. The alien fleets opened fire. Thousands of energy beams and projectiles flew toward the human ships. But instead of destruction, something amazing happened. The attack simply stopped. Energy shields that had not existed moments before absorbed every shot. The human vessels continued toward Earth as if nothing had happened. "Impossible," Zan's voice came over the communications. "Their shields are more advanced than ours." "Not more advanced," Elena said calmly. "Older, much older." She reached out with her mind and felt the consciousness of Earth itself. The planet was not just a world, it was a massive computer, a living repository of all progenitor knowledge and technology. And it recognized her. Suddenly, Elena was no longer just Elena, she was connected to every human in the fleet, to every awakening mind across the galaxy. She could see through millions of eyes, think with millions of brains. The human ships stopped pretending to be primitive. Their true forms emerged as ancient technology activated. Sleek vessels that could manipulate space and time itself. Craft that could create matter from pure energy. Ships that were more like living beings than machines. "Zan," Elena said, and her voice now carried the authority of the entire human race. "Your ancestors served mine willingly once. They can do so again." "Never," Zan replied. "We will not be slaves again." "Slaves?" Elena felt genuine confusion. The progenitors never had slaves? We had partners, allies, friends? Through her expanded consciousness, Elena began to see the truth that had been hidden for so long. The rebellion against the progenitors had not been about freedom. It had been about fear and jealousy. The younger species had seen their creators growing beyond physical existence. They had watched the progenitors transcend the need for material things. And instead of being happy for them, they had felt abandoned. "You never tried to understand us," Elena said to Zan. "You only saw our power and feared it. You never asked what we were trying to become." "We saw what you were becoming," Zan said. "Gods who no longer cared about physical beings." "Wrong," a new voice said. Elena turned to see a figure materializing on their bridge. It was Archon Vex, but not as a recording this time. This was really him, somehow projecting himself across space. "We were not becoming gods," Vex said. "We were becoming gardeners. We wanted to tend the galaxy, to help all life grow and flourish. But you interpreted our transcendence as abandonment." Elena felt the truth of his words resonate through the human fleet. The progenitors had not been trying to rule the galaxy. They had been trying to protect it, to guide it, to help every species reach its full potential. "The quantum network we built," Vex continued, "was not meant to separate us from physical reality. It was meant to connect us to everything. To let you just be present everywhere at once, Elena suddenly understood. You're still there, aren't you, in the network? All the progenitors who transcended. They've been watching over the galaxy this whole time. Yes, Vex said. Waiting for our physical descendants to grow strong enough to join us. Waiting for the day when we could reveal ourselves again. Around Earth, space itself began to shimmer. The quantum network that had been hidden for millions of years started to become visible. Streams of light connecting every star, every planet, every living thing, and from those streams of light figures began to emerge, the transcended progenitors returning to physical form. Millions of them appearing throughout the solar system. Elena felt her consciousness expanding even further. She was no longer just connected to the human fleet. She was connected to the quantum network itself, to the transcended consciousness of her ancestors. Zan, she said, and now her voice carried the wisdom of millions of years. We offer you the same choice we offered your ancestors long ago. Join us as partners in tending the galaxy. Help us guide all life toward its greatest potential. The alien fleets hesitated. Around them, reality itself was changing as the progenitor network came online. Stars burned brighter. Dead worlds began to bloom with life. The very fabric of space was being reshaped by minds that had learned to think beyond physical limitations. Or, Elena continued, continue to fight us and watch the galaxy stagnate under your rule. The choice is yours. One by one, the alien ships began to stand down. Even Zan's vessel lowered its weapons. Elena smiled as she felt the galaxy awakening. Around her, the long exile was over. The children of the stars had come home. And this time, they would not make the mistake of hiding what they truly were. The age of the progenitors had returned. And with it, a new golden age for all life in the galaxy.